In the words of former South African President Nelson Mandela, everything seems impossible until it's done. There will be moments in life when the weight you carry becomes so heavy that even getting out of bed feels like a battle. Moments when the silence around you feels deafening, and you begin to wonder if anyone truly sees you, hears you, or even cares. We all reach that point at some time. That fragile intersection where the pain of holding on collides with the fear of letting go. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a high school student lost in anxiety, a parent overwhelmed by responsibilities, or someone simply waking up each morning wondering what the point of it all is. Pain is a universal language, and in those moments of despair, you are speaking it fluently. But here's what no one tells you enough. Feeling broken doesn't mean you're finished. Having doubts doesn't mean you failed. And wanting to give up doesn't mean you should. These moments are not signs of weakness, they are signs of humanity. They mean you've cared deeply, tried hard, hoped for something more. And though the world may not see the storms inside you, they are real. The truth is, you are not alone in this. There are millions of people around the world fighting silent battles behind smiles, behind accomplishments, behind closed doors. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it all together, they've had their knees on the floor too. They've cried in parking lots, doubted themselves, failed publicly, and restarted privately. You just didn't see that part. This speech is not about perfection. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about the grit of choosing to breathe again when everything in you says stop. It's about the courage it takes to keep showing up, even when you feel invisible, unwanted, or unworthy. It's about remembering that every story has a turning point, and sometimes it's the exact moment you feel like giving up. So wherever you are, whether you're stuck in heartbreak, burnout, financial pressure, self-doubt, or grief, this message is for you. You were not meant to carry this alone. You were not born to surrender in the middle of the storm. There's a reason your heart is still beating. There's a reason you pressed play. And no matter how dark it feels right now, there's light ahead. Not because everything will be perfect, but because you will rise differently, stronger, wiser, deeper, more alive. You're not here by accident. You're here because something inside you still wants to believe that healing is possible, that your future is not canceled, that this is not the end. And I'm here to remind you, don't give up. Not now, not ever. You are not alone in this struggle. There's a particular kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being physically alone. It comes from being emotionally unseen. You could be surrounded by people, even loved ones, yet feel like no one really understands what you're going through. That kind of loneliness is heavy. It doesn't shout. It settles in your chest quietly like fog rolling into a city at night, slowly, subtly, until one day you can't see clearly anymore. You begin to wonder if something is wrong with you, why it seems easier for everyone else to carry on, and whether anyone would notice if you disappeared for a while. If you've ever felt that way, please hear this. You're not crazy. You're not being dramatic. You're simply human. And you are not alone in this struggle. Every person carries invisible battles. Some are battling anxiety they never talk about. Some are healing from childhood wounds they've never shared. Some are juggling depression, financial pressure, burnout, heartbreak, self-doubt, and doing it all while showing up to work, parenting, smiling in public. The world has trained us to hide our struggles so well that we forget it's normal to struggle in the first place. Social media shows us polished versions of life, filtered photos, curated successes, highlight reels of joy. But what it rarely shows are the moments when someone cries in their car after work, when a couple sleeps back to back because they haven't spoken in 3 days, when someone walks into the kitchen just to stare at the wall for 10 minutes because they don't have the energy to cook or think or speak. These are real moments. They're not shameful. They're deeply human. It's easy to believe that your pain is unique, that no one could possibly understand what you're going through. But the truth is, behind every closed door is a story. That cheerful barista, she might be staying up all night to take care of a sick parent. That coworker who always seems put together, he may be silently drowning in credit card debt. That friend who never misses a group chat message, she might be afraid of silence because that's when her anxiety gets loudest. Pain wears many faces. Just because someone else's struggle doesn't look like yours doesn't make yours less valid. You don't have to compare your pain. You're allowed to honor it and still trust that you'll find your way through. Let's be honest. Some days, just waking up is a victory. Some days, brushing your hair or eating a meal or replying to a single message is a sign of strength. You don't have to be running marathons or building businesses or writing novels while struggling. Surviving is enough. Breathing is enough. Existing with your pain without letting it define you, that is more than enough. You might feel broken right now, but broken doesn't mean destroyed. You might feel behind, but you're not running anyone else's race. You might feel tired, but you are still here. And that matters. You don't have to pretend to be strong every minute. Real strength isn't about never falling apart. It's about being honest enough to say, I'm not okay, and still showing up to life anyway. That's courage. That's power. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who've cried the most. They're the ones who've had to rebuild themselves piece by piece after loss or failure or rejection. They're the ones who've walked through fire and came out softer, not harder. They've made peace with not having it all together. And you can too. Take a breath seriously. Inhale slowly. Hold it. Exhale longer than you inhale. Do it again. That breath, that is proof of life. That is your body saying, I'm still here. Let that be enough for this moment. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to be anywhere else but here. Start with presence. Start with self-compassion. Stop speaking to yourself like you're an enemy. You would never say to a hurting child the things you say to yourself. You wouldn't call them lazy or a failure or weak. You'd hold them. You'd remind them they're loved. So why not do the same for yourself? Here's something else people don't say enough. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach out, to admit you're struggling, to say, I can't do this alone. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. We were not meant to go through life isolated. We need community. We need to be seen. We need to know that someone else has walked this path and made it through, and they have. And you will too. If you're listening to this and tears are in your eyes or your heart feels heavy, let me tell you, your emotions are valid. You're not overreacting. You're responding to something inside you that needs love. Let yourself feel. Don't numb it. Don't run from it. Healing begins when we feel what hurts without judging it. Your emotions are messengers. They are asking for your attention, not your punishment. And if no one has told you this lately, I see you. I believe you. I believe in your ability to heal. I believe in your quiet courage. I believe in your tomorrow. Because this is not your final chapter. You might be in a dark room, but that doesn't mean the sun has disappeared. It just means it's not in this room yet. But morning is coming. And when it does, you'll be able to look back and see that every tear, every breath, every small act of survival was a seed of your comeback. So hold on. Let this be your turning point, not because the pain vanished, but because you stopped hiding from your own worth. Because you decided that even if it's hard, even if it's slow, even if no one claps for you today, you will not give up on yourself. You deserve to heal. You deserve to feel joy again. You deserve to be proud of how far you've come, even if you're not where you want to be yet. The truth is, your life matters more than you know. Someone out there is inspired by your resilience. Someone needs your story of survival. And most importantly, your future self is waiting to thank you for not giving up. So don't. Not now. Not when you've made it this far. Not when you're standing on the edge of transformation. The world needs you. Not a perfect version of you, but the real, raw, beautiful you. And you're going to be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day soon, you're going to wake up and realize the storm didn't break you. It made you.
Even the strongest people break down sometimes. There is a dangerous myth in our culture. The myth that strength means never showing weakness. That the strongest people are always confident, always productive, always upbeat. That falling apart, even for a moment, is failure. But I want to tell you something honest, something true, something you need to hear right now. Even the strongest people break down sometimes. And not only is that okay, it's part of being real. Strength is not about how much you can carry on your shoulders without breaking. It's about knowing when to put the weight down, when to ask for help, when to take a knee and say, I need a moment. You see, we live in a world that glorifies pushing through, grinding nonstop, looking perfect while doing it. But what that creates is a generation of people who feel ashamed when they feel overwhelmed, ashamed when they feel tired, ashamed when they cry in the shower or stare at the ceiling at night asking, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. Life is heavy sometimes, and strength, real strength, is not about smiling through it all. It's about knowing how to be gentle with yourself when everything feels like too much. It's about honoring your humanity. Now let's take a moment to look at the people we admire, the ones who have made it through hardship, the ones who inspire us. Think of Maya Angelou, who overcame racism and abuse to become a voice of healing for millions. Think of Robin Williams, who made the world laugh while battling his own inner darkness. Think of Simone Biles, who had the courage to step away from the Olympics, not because she couldn't continue, but because her mental health mattered more. Or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's openly talked about battling depression in his 20s. These aren't stories of weakness. They are stories of courage. They remind us that vulnerability is not a flaw. It's a doorway to healing. You don't become strong by pretending nothing hurts. You become strong by choosing to feel what's real, by sitting with it, by learning from it, and by rising again, even if your legs are shaking. And when I say rise, I don't mean with grand gestures. I mean something as simple as getting out of bed when you didn't want to, answering that text you've been avoiding, taking a shower after 3 hard days. That's rising. That's power. That's how healing begins, not in leaps, but in tiny, quiet, ordinary acts of bravery. Here's something else they don't tell you. Resilience isn't natural for everyone. It's not a personality trait some are born with and others aren't. It's a skill. It's something you build, little by little, through every moment when you keep going, even though part of you wants to disappear. It's forged in those nights when you cry and wake up anyway, in those mornings when you feel hollow, but you get dressed, in those hours when you show up for others when you can barely show up for yourself. Every time you choose to stay in life, in your story, in your truth, you're building strength that no one can see. But one day, it will shine through everything you do. The strongest people aren't always loud. Sometimes they're the quietest ones in the room, the ones who've been through storms you'll never know about, the ones who choose kindness anyway, the ones who have every reason to give up but still choose to believe in something better. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be fearless to be brave. You just need to be willing to keep going, even when your voice trembles, even when your heart breaks, even when nothing makes sense. And if you've had a breakdown recently, if you've had days or weeks or even months when you didn't feel like yourself, when you pulled away, when you cried more than usual or felt like disappearing, please know this: that doesn't disqualify you. That doesn't mean you're weak. That doesn't mean your dreams are over. It means you've been human. And sometimes being human is excruciating. But it is also beautiful. You are allowed to feel overwhelmed. You are allowed to collapse. What matters is not whether you've ever broken down, but whether you get back up. And you can. You will. Not in a rush, not because anyone says you should, but because there is still life left in you. And life is patient. It waits. It allows room for the fall and the rise. Some people will never understand what it's like to feel like you're drowning on the inside while functioning on the outside. They'll look at you and say, "You seem fine." They don't see the effort it takes just to be fine. But that's okay. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. What you need is to understand your own resilience. What you need is to give yourself permission to rest, to recover, to cry, to breathe, to break, and to believe that you're still whole underneath it all. And listen, there's no shame in seeking support. Whether it's therapy, medication, prayer, journaling, community, movement, or just silence, healing requires intention. And sometimes it requires help. Not because you're weak, but because you're worth the effort. Because your healing matters. Because your peace matters. Because your life matters. Maybe no one applauds your healing process. Maybe no one sees the quiet battles you fight. But let me be clear. Every time you choose to stay, to feel, to try, you are defying the odds. You are choosing life. You are choosing hope. And that is worth celebrating. You are not a burden. You are not too sensitive. You are not dramatic for needing time, for feeling deeply, for craving rest. Your emotions are valid. Your breakdowns are part of your story, not the end of it. The most beautiful people I've ever met aren't the ones who've never fallen. They're the ones who've fallen so many times they've learned how to land with grace. They've stopped judging themselves for being human. They've stopped apologizing for needing space. They've stopped pretending to be okay when they're not. And because of that, they radiate something deeper than perfection. They radiate truth. So if today you feel like breaking down, let yourself cry, scream, write, call a friend, lie on the floor, feel whatever is real. But after the feeling passes, and it will, remind yourself of this: you are still standing. And that means you're not done yet. Strength is not the absence of struggle. It's the presence of heart. It's choosing again and again to show up to your life even when it hurts, even when you're afraid, even when no one else gets it. You don't need to get over it. You need to get through it, and you will. 1 hour at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time. There is no shame in the fall. The shame is in not giving yourself the chance to rise. And when you do, not if, but when, you'll look back at these hard moments and realize they didn't break you. They built you.
Rock bottom is not the end, it's the foundation. Rock bottom. The place nobody plans to visit, yet so many of us end up there. Sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. It can be the aftermath of a breakup you didn't see coming, the financial collapse after years of trying to stay afloat, the loss of someone you loved more than words could ever express. It can be burnout so deep that your passion becomes a burden, anxiety that silences your voice, or a moment where the life you once dreamed of feels like it belongs to someone else. It's the place where the mask comes off, the walls fall down, and you're forced to face what's been hiding beneath the surface for years. It's painful, it's disorienting, it feels like the end, but here's the truth. No one tells you in those moments, rock bottom isn't the end, it's the foundation. It's the moment where everything that was false, fragile, or built to please others crumbles, not to punish you, but to set you free. Because when you've lost everything you thought you needed, you finally get to discover what actually matters, what's actually yours, and who you really are when no one's watching. There is a strange kind of clarity that comes with hitting bottom. You no longer have the energy to keep up appearances. You stop chasing the things that never filled you. You get quiet, you get still, and in that stillness, something begins to awaken. Not all at once, but gently. You start hearing your own voice again, the one that got drowned out by expectations, noise, and fear. You begin to realize that maybe, just maybe, this collapse is not a death sentence. It's a rebirth. Think about a seed. Before it becomes a tree, it has to be buried in darkness. It has to break open. It has to surrender to the unknown. Only then does it grow roots. Deep roots, roots strong enough to hold the weight of everything that will come after. You are no different. Your rock bottom is not where your life ends. It's where your roots begin. It's where your future takes form, not in the spotlight, but in the soil. The world glorifies the rise. We celebrate the comeback stories, the glow-ups, the big wins. But what we rarely talk about are the nights someone cried on the bathroom floor, the days they couldn't get out of bed, the moments they deleted everything and started over. Yet those are the moments that make the rise possible, not despite the fall, but because of it. Everyone wants resurrection, but no one wants the crucifixion. We want the strength without the breaking, the wisdom without the wounds. But life doesn't work that way. Growth requires discomfort. Transformation demands surrender. And sometimes, the only way to build a life that's truly yours is to let the old one burn, not out of failure, but out of faith. I know this might sound strange, but one day you may look back on your rock bottom with a kind of gratitude, not because it didn't hurt, it did, not because it was fair, it wasn't, but because it forced you to become someone more honest, more awake, more compassionate, because it burned away what was never really meant for you, because it gave you the kind of wisdom you can't learn from a book or a podcast or a quote on Instagram. You had to live it, you had to survive it, and you did. You see, the most authentic version of you doesn't come from success. It comes from fire. It comes from standing in the ashes of everything that didn't work out and still choosing to rebuild, not with the pressure to be who you once were, but with the freedom to become who you were always meant to be. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to rebuild fast. You don't need to have a 5-year plan by next week. You just need to start small. You just need to believe that there's something worth building from here, even if it's just one habit, one conversation, one honest moment with yourself. Start there, lay one brick, then another. Let your foundation be built not on perfection or performance, but on truth. Maybe your rock bottom taught you that you can't please everyone. Maybe it showed you that you've been living someone else's dream. Maybe it revealed that you've been pouring from an empty cup for years. That's okay. You see it now. That awareness, that's the beginning of change. And change doesn't require a miracle. It just requires a decision. One small, consistent choice to keep growing. Do you know what's powerful? When someone who has every reason to give up decides to stay. When someone who's lost their way still chooses to trust the journey. When someone who's been broken still believes in beauty. That kind of faith shakes the ground. That kind of courage changes lives. And you have it. Maybe you don't feel it today. Maybe you feel numb, unsure, exhausted. But it's there, buried beneath the rubble. waiting for you to breathe life into it again. Don't rush this season. Don't shame yourself for needing time. Healing isn't linear, rebuilding isn't glamorous. But every quiet, private act of self-respect is a brick in your new foundation. Every time you say no to what broke you and yes to what restores you, you're building. Every time you rest instead of push, listen instead of numb, speak instead of swallow your truth, you're laying something sacred beneath your feet. This is your becoming. This is your rising. And it starts with honoring your fall. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to keep showing up. Some days, showing up looks like launching a new project. Other days, it looks like making your bed and drinking water. Both count. Both matter. Both are signs that you are choosing life again, one moment at a time. And as you rise, don't forget what you've learned. Your rock bottom gave you something no success ever could. Depth, empathy, inner strength, a different kind of vision. You've seen what it's like to feel forgotten. Now you will never forget others. You've felt the weight of despair. Now your joy will never be shallow. You've lost things you thought you couldn't live without, and now you understand what truly matters. So no, rock bottom is not glamorous. It's not easy, but it is sacred. It's where you become real. It's where you stop performing and start living. And from that place, you can build a life that's no longer a performance, but a reflection of your truth. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are in the middle of becoming. You are in the sacred space between destruction and creation, between grief and growth, between what was and what's next. Trust it. Trust yourself. Trust the process. This is not your ending. This is your foundation.
Your worth is not defined by your failures. One of the most painful lies you've ever been told is that your worth is determined by your performance, that your value is tied to your success, that if you fail, if you fall, if you mess up even once, you're somehow less worthy, less lovable, less important, that the mistakes you've made are not just things that happen to you, but proof of who you are. But I want you to hear this loud and clear. Your worth is not defined by your failures, not yesterday's, not today's, not tomorrow's, not the ones people know about, and not the ones you carry quietly in your own heart. You are not your bank account. You are not your relationship status. You are not the job you lost, the class you failed, the marriage that ended, or the opportunity you missed. You are not your lowest moment, not your worst choice, not your hardest season. You are a whole person, in progress, in process, in motion. You are becoming. And becoming always includes setbacks, detours, and restarts. That's not failure, that's life. We live in a world obsessed with achievement. From an early age, we're taught that we matter more when we win, when we earn, when we succeed. Gold stars, grades, trophies, promotions, these become symbols of value, and when we don't measure up, shame creeps in, quiet, ruthless. It tells you that maybe you're not enough, maybe you're not lovable unless you're impressive. And slowly, without realizing it, your identity becomes tangled with performance. You start believing that if you're not achieving, you're not worth much. But think about this. Would you look at a child who's struggling to walk and call them a failure? Would you look at someone learning a new language and criticize them for stumbling? Of course not. You'd see them as brave, courageous, growing. So why do you treat yourself differently? Why do you assume that every mistake disqualifies you from grace, or that your worthiness must be earned through endless doing? The truth is, your worth was never meant to be earned. It was always meant to be known. It's something you carry within you, regardless of what's happening around you. You were valuable the moment you took your first breath. You're valuable today, even if all you did was survive. And you'll still be valuable tomorrow, no matter what happens. Failure is not a verdict. It's feedback. It's part of learning. It's how you refine, evolve, adjust. Think about Thomas Edison. who failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb, or J.K. Rowling, who was rejected by a dozen publishers, or Walt Disney, who was once told he lacked imagination. What made them extraordinary wasn't that they never failed. It was that they didn't let failure define them. They knew that failure was simply part of the path. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need to win every battle to be respected. You don't need to impress the world to belong here. You already do. Not because of your resume, not because of your wins, but because you are a living, breathing human being with a heart that loves, a mind that dreams, a soul that tries. That is enough. Let's talk about regret for a moment. That heavy weight you carry when you wish you could go back and do it all differently. The truth is, you can't rewrite the past, but you can choose how it shapes you. You can choose to let regret become a teacher instead of a tormentor. You can ask, what did this moment teach me about who I am, about what I need, about what I deserve? You can grow from what you wish had never happened, not by denying it, but by redeeming it. And yes, there are some failures that come with deep consequences, financial ruin, broken relationships, lost time. But even then, even in the wake of what feels irreversible, you are not disqualified from love, peace, hope, or future. You are not beyond repair. Some of the most beautiful things in life are born from broken places, not despite them, but because of them. Your scars are not shameful. They are sacred reminders that you've survived, healed, and risen again. You don't need to punish yourself forever for what went wrong. You are allowed to move on. You are allowed to forgive yourself. You are allowed to start over, not because what happened didn't matter, but because you matter more than what happened. Let go of the lie that you have to earn your right to exist. You don't. You were born worthy. Every breath you take affirms that. The universe, the creator, whatever name you use, you are here on purpose. Even when you stumble, even when you break, even when you're lost. The journey doesn't end because you fell. It evolves. And sometimes it evolves in more powerful ways than you ever imagined. Ask yourself, what would it look like if I stopped measuring my worth by my productivity? What would change if I believed even for a moment that I am already enough? How would I treat myself differently? How would I speak to myself when I mess up? How much peace could I reclaim if I stopped trying to prove something to people who were never really watching? One of the most healing things you can do is change the way you speak to yourself. Replace self-criticism with curiosity. Instead of, why am I such a failure? Ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of, I'm always messing things up, ask, what support do I need to do better next time? Growth doesn't come from shame. It comes from compassion. Speak to yourself like someone worth fighting for, because you are. There's nothing noble about self-hatred. There's nothing heroic about staying stuck in guilt. Your healing begins when you believe that you are worth rescuing, even from your own harshness, even from the voice in your head that keeps bringing up everything you did wrong. That voice is not truth, it's fear. And you have every right to replace it with something kinder. If you want proof that failure doesn't define worth, just look around. Look at the people who love you, not because of your achievements, but because of your presence. Look at the children who adore you when you're simply there. Look at the friends who sit with you in silence and still choose you. They don't love you for your resume. They love you for your heart. And if you feel like there's no one in your life like that right now, know this. That doesn't mean you're unlovable. It just means your people may still be on the way. In the meantime, You can become your own safe place. You can learn to love yourself even if no one else taught you how. You can become the person who looks in the mirror and says, I've made mistakes, but I'm not a mistake. I've failed, but I'm not a failure. I am worthy. Still, you are not what you did. You are what you do next, and what you do next can be powerful. It can be redemptive. It can be brave. Not because it erases the past, but because it chooses to rise anyway. So don't give up on yourself just because things didn't go as planned. Don't throw away your future because you're ashamed of your past. Don't stay down when life is still offering you another breath, another chance, another chapter. You are more than your performance. You are more than your productivity. You are more than your mistakes. You are worthy, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And who you are is someone still standing, someone still trying, someone still open to healing. And that alone is proof of your strength, your courage, your capacity to become something even more beautiful from this point forward. Your story isn't over. Your worth isn't gone. It never was. It's been here the whole time, waiting for you to remember. Your future is built by small, daily acts. There's a powerful misconception that success arrives in a single, life-altering moment. A promotion, a breakthrough, a bold leap. That one day, if you work hard enough or pray long enough or wait patiently enough, your whole life will shift in an instant. But the truth is quieter, less cinematic. Your future isn't built in one dramatic decision. It's built in the small, often invisible choices you make day after day. It's not the mountain you climb once. It's the steps you take every single morning, even when no one is watching, even when no one claps, even when no one believes in you but you. This world has conditioned us to chase the big wins. We're taught to set huge goals, post before and after pictures, celebrate only the milestones that look impressive. But what happens when the results don't come quickly? What happens when you don't have a powerful transformation story in 30 days? Most people give up, not because they can't reach the goal, but because they underestimate the power of consistency. They forget that small things done daily have the ability to shape a life completely. It's not glamorous to drink water instead of soda, to stretch for 10 minutes when you're tired, to journal when your heart is aching, to read one page of a book, to choose kindness when you feel annoyed. But these small actions, repeated over time, carve a path. They reinforce your values. They shape your habits. They rebuild your identity. These are the bricks that build your future. Think of anyone you admire, an artist, an athlete, a writer, a teacher, a healer. They didn't arrive where they are through one moment of inspiration. They got there through daily discipline, quiet repetitions, unseen sacrifices. Serena Williams didn't become the greatest by winning one match. She became the greatest by showing up to practice even when she was tired, discouraged, or sore. Stephen King writes every single day, not just when he's inspired. Michelangelo spent years chiseling stone with no applause. These small daily acts, they matter. You don't need to change your life in 1 week. You just need to start showing up to it. Maybe it's waking up 10 minutes earlier to be with your thoughts. Maybe it's putting your phone down during meals to connect more deeply. Maybe it's replacing one negative thought with one encouraging truth. That's enough. That's how transformation begins. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is, I'll start tomorrow. We wait for motivation. We wait to feel ready, but readiness rarely comes before action. Most of the time, clarity comes from doing, not thinking. Motivation follows momentum. You don't need to feel inspired to take one small step. You just need to choose it, and then choose it again tomorrow, and again the next day. Until one day, you look back and realize you're not the same person anymore. We often underestimate how powerful small wins can be. Drinking a glass of water in the morning, saying no when you usually say yes out of guilt, writing for 5 minutes, meditating for 1, saying I love you to yourself in the mirror. These don't seem like much, but they are rewiring your brain. They are reminding your nervous system that safety, structure, and self-compassion are possible. They are proof that you are not powerless. You are actively participating in your own healing. Think about the habits that shape your day, not just the ones others see, but the ones that happen when no one's around. The way you talk to yourself when you make a mistake, the way you treat your body when it's tired, the way you react when you're overwhelmed. These moments are invitations to change, not through shame, but through gentleness. You don't have to fix your whole life overnight. You just have to be willing to pay attention, because how you live your days is how you live your life. Let's be real. You're going to have days when you fall off track. You'll miss workouts. You'll eat things you promised yourself you wouldn't. You'll scroll instead of sleep. You'll react instead of respond. That's okay. You're human. The key is not perfection. It's permission. Permission to start again without shaming yourself, to forgive the setback, to recommit with kindness. Growth doesn't mean never falling. It means shortening the time between the fall and the rise. And while we're here, let's stop romanticizing the all or nothing mindset. You don't have to overhaul your life to make progress. You don't have to be perfect every day. Progress is not a straight line. Real change is slow, subtle, and sometimes boring, but it's worth it. It lasts, and it's built in the ordinary. What's one small act you could start today that would change your tomorrow? Just one. Maybe it's sending that email, going on that walk, drinking more water, saying no to that toxic friend, taking 5 deep breaths before reacting. These are not minor, these are massive. They are votes for the person you are becoming. So much of success is about showing up when it's inconvenient, when you're tired, when the results are invisible. That's where character is formed. That's where resilience is built. And that's when your future takes shape. Not in one glorious moment, but in the 1,000 silent choices you make when no one's watching. Here's the truth. Small acts compound. Think about compound interest in finance. A little invested regularly becomes massive over time. The same is true for your habits. 5 push-ups a day becomes strength. 1 sentence a day becomes a book. A few minutes of gratitude becomes joy. 1 honest conversation becomes a healed relationship. Over time, these acts change your life. If you feel stuck right now, don't aim for massive changes. Just aim to move. Pick the smallest possible action. Ask, what's the next right thing I can do? Then do that. And let that be enough for today. You don't need to jump ahead. You just need to show up. Your future self is shaped by what you do daily, not by what you do occasionally. You won't become confident by talking about confidence. You become confident by showing up when you're afraid, speaking when your voice shakes, and doing the work before you're sure it will succeed. You build trust with yourself through action. Start tracking your small wins, not for validation, but for visibility. Let yourself see the progress. Write them down. Celebrate them. Watch how they accumulate. Watch how they change the story you tell yourself. Because your story is not just written in chapters. It's written in habits. Remember this: a little every day is more powerful than a lot someday. You don't need intensity. You need consistency. Keep showing up. Keep choosing yourself. Keep believing that small is not weak. Small is sacred. Small is sustainable. And small is what changes everything. Don't quit before the miracle happens. If you've made it this far, let me say something from my heart to yours. I'm proud of you. Not because you've done everything perfectly, not because you figured it all out, but because you're still here. Because something inside you still believes or wants to believe that you were made for more than surviving, that you are worthy of healing, of becoming, of peace, of starting again. You didn't quit. You didn't shut down the moment it got hard. You didn't silence the voice that wanted more, and that matters. Because the world doesn't change through perfect people. It changes through real people. People who've felt despair and still get up. People who've lost everything and still choose love. People who've been crushed by life and still choose light. You're one of those people. Even if you don't feel like it yet. Even if your hands are still shaking. Even if you're still afraid. You're here. You're listening. You're willing. And that's enough. Let this be the chapter where you stop apologizing for struggling. Let this be the moment you stop measuring your worth by how productive or successful you are. Let this be the space where you stop waiting for a perfect future and start reclaiming the power of now, this breath, this day, this decision. The miracle isn't just ahead, it's already happening. It's in the fact that your heart is still open, that you still want to feel, that you still dare to dream, even quietly, that you've survived everything meant to break you, that you are not your past, that your wounds are turning into wisdom, that your life still holds purpose, even if you don't fully see it yet. You have a light in you, and it doesn't need to be bright or loud or seen by the world to matter. It just needs to stay lit. Because someone somewhere is walking through darkness, and your light might be the one they follow home. So don't quit now. Don't silence the song you were born to sing. Don't trade your truth for acceptance. Don't abandon the story when you're only halfway through. You've come too far. You've cried too many tears. You've rebuilt too many times. Don't give up before the miracle happens. And when it does, when you find joy again, when you rise stronger, when you look back and realize this moment didn't break you but made you, remember this feeling and pass it on. Be the voice that says, keep going. Be the friend that says, you're not alone. Be the reminder someone else needs. Because in the end, that's how the world heals. One brave soul choosing not to give up at a time. And that brave soul is you. If this message found you in a dark place, I hope it reminded you that the light is still within you. I hope it gave you strength to take one more step. And I hope deeply that you never forget. You are enough, even now.